What the hell did I just watch? Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 10 of the anime series Erased, which was like freaking heart attack time. Like, don't watch this show if you have anxiety issues. You know, like, oh my god. I feel like I was choking for air by the end of this episode, much as was Satoru. I don't even know where to begin. I'm still wrapping my head around this episode because it, like, basically begins with everything status quo. You know, Satoru's pretty much feeling relatively hunky-dory at his successes, but at the same time, he is progressively looking at the scenario. He's, you know, tracking down Aya, he's getting everyone involved, and we have some strange alignment there going on with his one friend and her. I guess she's interested in him or whatever like that. That's why she came to their hideout after being invited by him and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, the whole idea of Misato, this cranky girl, crabby girl, who has really been on her lonesome for the majority of the time, ever since she, you know, rose a fit and tried to point the finger at, you know, Kaio for stealing the lunch money in class and everything. And this was a bait and switch by resident killer, abductor, mastermind, freaking sensei. Now, part of me, because, you know, he has been sort of one of those on again, off again, tried and true, I think he's guilty, I think he's not. I think he's guilty, I think he's not. In the last couple of episodes, I was very much feeling like, oh, there's no way. I mean, look at how much he's getting close to Satoru. Look at how much he's, you know, a benevolent benefactor in the transition of saving Kaio and getting her out of the care of her mother and all this stuff. And here we have a guy who has been manipulating things, like literally manipulating things, in just being so frustrated, having the carpet drawn out from under him twice over. In the case of Kaio, and then Hiromi, and you know, and now the working on Aya and everything like that. And this has raised his suspicions. And they try to misdirect you even, like, you know, with Yuki's father happening to drive away from the scene of this ice hockey rink where, you know, basically Satoru has tracked down Misato. And it was all perfectly exploited to get right to the heart of what he's been doing. And, like, as soon as you have this sequence coming to the fore, where, like, you know, Teach is tapping his finger on his, you know, not even his real, genuine, usual vehicle's steering wheel, and, like, Satoru's thinking, oh, I'm going to get him some candy. He just came from outside. He was sucking on a lollipop, you know, all this stuff. He needs to fill a certain kind of void. All of that talk was like mind-bending to me, and the ominous flare of the direction the scene took all of a sudden like that. There is some part of me that even now has trouble swallowing it. Like, there's a very minute part of me that feels like I don't think I've seen enough to warrant such a turn of character. But at the same time, we have had hints. We have had this on-again, off-again debate. And I've been very reluctant to accept Sensei as the killer, abductor, and all this kind of stuff, in spite of the evidence to suggest that, because they have been, at least in my estimation, very adept at, you know, making the footing uncertain for where you want to lay your bets, as far as who you think is the guilty party. And I am wondering, even still, if we're going to get some kind of revelation that there's more to this. Maybe other people are involved, you know, I don't know for certain. But then I don't know what in the hell to think of the cliffhanger for this episode either. Like, I've been going back and forth with a couple of you guys over the course of this series, and specifically recently, talking about the idea of, you know, what would happen if Satoru ends up in a life and death scenario. not even really fully investing myself in that being a probable concept in the confines of the show. And I've just been loosely toying around with the timey-wiminess of it, and, how that might affect the story, calling back on the alternate title, the town where only I am missing, and all this kind of stuff. Like, this episode leaves off seeming to suggest that the sensei is, for a time, for now, satisfied with seemingly taking the life of Satoru, and he's going to move on. Now, that says to me he'll probably continue this elsewhere. I don't think this has been some sort of grand intervention where it'll shake him from ever doing it again because he was caught, for all intents and purposes, red-handed. And, even though he dispatched the would-be enemy, as he calls Satoru, of everything he's been enacting, I don't believe he's been scared off from this, even with the idea of other kids are still in a pseudo-awareness of something bad going on. They don't necessarily all, believe Satoru and everything like that. And now, if this is permanent, if he dies, Kenya comes to the fore, in my mind, as being the one to pick up the pieces, sort of fill the void, again, referencing this terminology, left behind by Satoru. And he has his whole life flashing before his eyes as he's trapped in this vehicle, now sinking into the ice water. And of course, he does call out just before this happens to Sensei, "I know your future." And I was half expecting to see Sensei run and jump back into the water and pull the kid out. Like, what the hell do you mean, And I'm loosely expecting that to be where we pick up next episode, unless this series really, truly has the cojones to kill off Satoru, which I doubt. But at the same time, I really don't know. Did I actually just see what happened in this episode actually occur before me? I am in complete and utter shock. Not only of the revelation of just how malevolent and evil Sensei turned out to be, and Satoru, going back on all of that in his mind, well, yes, it makes perfect sense, but at the same time, it does feel somewhat sudden, the way all of a sudden, this character turn just happened in this episode. And then to see how extremely, penultimately dark it got within minutes. Satoru has been sent to his death. Whether or not he will survive remains to be seen. It'll remain to be seen how he survives, whether Sensei comes back, whether, hey, we're near a bridge. Maybe Yuki's over here sitting by the bridge and he's going to jump in the water and save him and die or something like that. I don't know. Maybe, how can Satoru potentially snap back to the future if he dies in the here and now? Or will it be one of those things where he would snap back to the future and then revival back to just moments before this? They could get really creative with that timey-wimey prospect, that revival prospect, like bring him out of it, send him back into it. Maybe he'll go to the future and come back to the past with more momentum in time to not be ensnared by Sensei. Now with this foreknowledge of what the truth of the Sensei's, involvement with all these matters is. It just, man, holy hell. I've heard some people actually saying they watched one or two episodes of this series and they don't see why people are so clamoring over it, and how it can be so, highly regarded, and everyone's already saying it's one of the best anime ever and everything like that. Even myself, I'm including myself in that because that's how I feel about it. And my answer to it is, it is utmost manipulative and emotional in all the best sort of ways, attaching you to characters, putting their lives at risk, making you feel the emotions from a pathos point of view where you can relate and you can feel for them and you can be afraid for them and all this kind of stuff, the satisfaction of the success of saving Kaio and all this stuff. The sheer tension. This show has known how to do proper tension very freaking well. Disturbingly so. it's like I said, after this episode especially, but there have been beats along the path, the course of the series, that are very much in the same kind of framework where if you have a problem with anxiety, you know, pop your volumes before watching this sucker, because holy hell. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this episode. Minorly dissatisfied that it was the sensei after all, and penultimately anxietized and freaking out and in shock at where we left it. Bring on the next one, please, as soon as humanly possible, because I am definitely going to be tiptoeing on eggshells for the next week thanks to this scenario. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've seen episode 10 of Erased. Do you feel validated that you know, for all of you guys who are calling it that it was the sensei and everything like that, do you think it was handled well? Do you think it was explained well enough? The reveal and everything, the turn of character, did you feel at all like it was rushed or whatever like that? Kind of what I'm talking about, I kind of felt about it. Were you penultimately anxietized as well in how this all played out from the middle point on? And Satoru now very much potentially meeting his maker. Fingers crossed that he's not gonna, but I mean, what did you think of it all? Love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. Just love having that conversation. I'm gonna need to sleep this one off. And so yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.